Hey, what's up guys? Chip Walters here, and today I want to talk a little bit about how to create dynamic arrays. Let's take a look at these little widget boxes here, and notice as I drag this empty around, you see that it's dynamically adding these little boxes for me and subtracting them into different rows and columns. So today, let's talk about how we're going to do this, okay? So first, we'll make a real quick little switch. Okay, great. Now we have our little switch object. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a curve to this. So I'll hold the Shift and A key down and say curve, and I want a path because I want kind of a straight curve. I'm going to move it out here so we can kind of see that a little bit. So we can see that, and basically we want it to go the other direction. So I'm going to type in the RZ90. Let's put it out here so we can kind of see what we're doing here. Okay. So we know this is 2 meters long because the cubes and everything else comes in at 2. So let's just go ahead and set this to 2 right here. So we know this point's directly on the center. We can tab into here and we can select that point, and we can do Shift S and we can say cursor to selected. So now we have a cursor there, and then we can hit tab to get back out, and then we can Shift S and say we want the origin to the cursor for this object, right? So now we put the origin there. Now, I need to tell you about this little pie tool that I'm using. So this is the PowerSnappingPies by Sebastian K. I've been told it's a great tool. I've been using it, and it sure does allow me to do some interesting things. Like for instance, when you're in edit mode, tab. So we know the tab, but I can go, like for instance, select this, and I can say origin to selection. So I can actually move the origin around inside an object while I'm in edit mode, which is pretty cool. Okay, now let's see how this works. I'm going to click on the button here and select it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add an array modifier, and up here where it says fixed count, I'm going to change that to fit curve. Now with this little eyedropper tool, I'm going to select my curve. You see that the buttons jump out in the wrong direction. That's because we have this at 1 here. So I'm going to go in here, tab, and I'm going to hit this at 1. Now you'll see they go out and they fit that curve. I'm actually going to move them just a little bit. Holding the Shift key down and dragging, I can just move them just a little bit more than what I'm showing right there. So I'm going to do something like this. Okay, and here's our curve right down here. So if I go into this curve and I scale S along the Y dimension, S, Y, you see as I scale, I'm actually adding and deleting up until this point into 5. So that's kind of cool. So what I want to do is I want to get it down so it's down to 1. So I'm going to hit the escape key, and I'm going to bring the scale, I'm going to bring it down to right about there. So it's 1. And now I'm going to Control A, and I'm going to say, I'm going to apply the scale. So now I have just 1 button. So now for the cool part, we're going to use something called hooks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my cursor to the end point right here. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go in and tab into here, select this point, use my snap, Control S, and say I want my cursor to selected. So there it is. Tab back out, then do a Shift A, and I'm going to add an empty, and I like to use the sphere, and I'm going to scale it down to something about that big right there, and then I'm going to Control A and apply the scale. So that sphere, we're going to call it empty. I'm going to call this horizontal control. Empty. I'm going to select this, and I'll select this. So this is the secondary selected thing. And now I'm going to tab into this object. I still have that point select, and I'll do Control H, and that's my hook. So I'm going to say hook to selected object. So now I've got the selected object. I'll tab back out, and now as I clicked on this empty, now I can just drag it, and as I drag it, we'll see that it'll go completely as many objects as I want. How cool is that? So now I can add another array modifier and do the exact opposite thing in the X direction, and I can create a number of different rows. So this is creating the key columns in the Y direction. The X direction would create a number of rows. I'm not going to do that. I'll leave that up to you to figure that out, but it's pretty straightforward. It's exactly the same process that we just went through. Let me show you one more use of hooks real quick. I'm going to create a quick display using a product called Box Cutter from Master Xeon 1001. That's a great add-on, definitely worth looking into. So I've got a quick display here, and we're going to use hooks to modify it. Okay, so this should be pretty straightforward. Check this out. I'm going to tab into the object, and I'll be in vertex mode. And let's go to maybe a view like this, and hit the B key for a box, and we'll select all these vertexes. So we've got these selected. I'm going to tab back out, and I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to again create my empty sphere, scale it down. I'll move it over to the right, and with that selected, I'm going to go back in, select this, hit the tab key again. I've still got my vertices selected. I'll hit the Control H button, hook to selected object, and tab back out. Now watch this. When I drag my empty, you see that I'm just pulling just those vertices that I had selected out. How cool is that? That's pretty interesting. So you can make some pretty interesting dynamic components using this technique. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's a quick little tutorial. It's something that I found pretty exciting when I was shown to it by Jerry Perkins, who's Master Xeon 1001, who's actually someone who's been helping me out a lot, and I really appreciate the help that he's been giving me. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.